The people that literally say, I'm just going to get in the river, start moving downstream, and then figure out how to navigate this thing, they're the ones that end up in this new land of opportunity. But most people sit around waiting for the river to dry up so they can make a crossing.
100%.
That's not how it works.
6 years ago, I was working full-time as an air traffic controller. I knew nothing about business, nothing about real estate. But guess what? I did it anyways. I figured out how to buy real estate. When I started this podcast, knew nothing about podcasting. I did it anyways, and guess what? I figured it out. And I think once you realize that no one knows what they're doing, and the only thing that separates you and the person that's growing out there is that they did it anyways, and they figured it out, and guess what? You will figure it out too. And once you realize that, I think everything changes. All right, guys, welcome to another episode of The Report. Today, I got a repeat guest. I got someone who was last on the podcast, episode 113, back in November 2023, and absolutely has blown up since then. He is the best-selling author of Buy Back Your Time. I got my man, Dan Martell. Dan, welcome back to the show.
Rich, it's an honor, man. I'm pumped. Round 2, and we're going to bring the heat today.
Dude, so much to cover here. And since you last came on November 2023, you have absolutely, completely blown up. I mean, you had 170K on Instagram. I don't know if you remember.
Do we have 170?
November of 23, you had about 170K on Instagram. Today, you're at 1.2. YouTube blown up to over 1 million. Absolutely blown up on all these different platforms. A lot of it's due to this guy, Sam, right here, your creative director.
Hell yeah.
And he's only 22 years old, my
23.
Man.
He
23.
said he gave me 6 months to keep calling him 22 because it was, he's all about the content. It was a good story.
And he's more jacked than you are.
Well,
I mean,
he eats a lot more chicken than me.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
You guys are eating chickens
Is
in the back
that
of the
extra
Mustang,
chicken protocol?
In the back of the PJ, eating chicken. Okay. That's the trick. And you went to 6% body fat.
I did, yeah.
You used to weigh 265 pounds.
When I was younger, like I used to be an introverted programmer and chubby. I used to eat a lot of wings, drink a lot, and did not care about my health at all.
Much there.
Yeah, and then last year I did a whole body recomp.
You look great, man.
Thanks, man.
I saw,
and I'm still like, I'm probably 9%. I keep it pretty lean.
Is that where you're at now?
Yeah.
I saw your YouTube video about your cut to where you ended up in Cabo San Lucas for the shoot. You look great. Your wife looks great. Amazing. But so much to cover here, so much value to drop in this podcast. I cannot wait to get into it. But that leads me to my first topic. You just cut down to 6%. Now you're at 9%. You used to be 265. Do you believe that getting fit is a prerequisite for getting rich?
I don't think it's a prerequisite. It will make you richer. I think most people never get rich because they have no discipline. You can be out of shape and have discipline and get rich. Will you have more energy, show up with more confidence, trust in yourself more, be more courageous if you get absolutely shredded? 100%. That part, like there was a lot of stuff going on in my life in the last few years. Obviously the book, growing my media, brand, and then obviously the fitness stuff. But I've never grown my personal net worth more than deciding to make fitness a priority. And not just like some people can lose 5-10 pounds. I'm talking like do something hard, like Ironman level, CrossFit competition, bodybuilding competition, like something that really like pushes you. Cause again, losing 10 pounds, just go in a caloric deficit and call it a day. But if you actually want to like do a full body recomp and restructure your whole, that's a different game.
I mean, you're talking diet, discipline, cutting out.
I'm talking
sugars,
everything, man. I travel with my food. Yeah, get rid of sodiums. Really track your macros. To me, it's all about macros. And then
you're doing a lot of social events. I mean, you're out at social events all the time.
When I did, and it's on my YouTube channel. I think it's, I don't know what it's called. Something. How I got abs in 90 days. Obviously, clickbait tale. We call it Project Visible Abs. And I chose a period in my life, 90 days, where I was on ski trips, travel, international, like zero excuse, like the worst Christmas. I started in December 1st or late mid-November and went till, the following February. So it was like the worst time I could do it just to show people how to do it.
And the holidays is when everyone falls off.
Everybody. I was getting leaner.
Football season.
Yeah.
The sun goes down earlier. It's cold outside. You're wearing baggy clothes. You're not out in your bathing suit. And that's where everyone falls off. They call it the winter arc for a reason. And that's when you dialed it in.
Yeah. When everybody gets soft, I decide to go hard. And
So you said in a video, you said the bicep vein is the McLaren in the body. Elaborate on that.
well, I think when you show up in a McLaren, whether you like nice cars or not, it communicates something about who you are. And a lot of people that actually judge us, it's funny because I think if you see somebody say something or do something like that, you either go irritated or inspired, one or the other. Most people get irritated because they rather reject the potential of them ever getting it because they don't ever want to think they could, because then they know they didn't, if that makes sense.
No, it does.
So like literally some people talk crap about, I don't care, like get to a place where you could buy a McLaren cash and then decide to give the money away. But to not aspire for more is my problem. The ones that are inspired are awesome. For me, the bicep vein is the same thing. When I used to look at somebody that was like shredded and low body fat percentage, I used to think dumb stuff like they probably have no fun. They probably are militant. I bet they have no friends. I bet they spend their whole lives in the gym. Like I made up all these stories about what I thought that meant that were not true. But I told myself those stories to keep it not something achievable, because if I actually knew the truth, which is the opposite of what I just said, then I would have to admit that it's just my decision not to do it.
Yeah. What would be your advice to maybe someone listening to this podcast right now that is in a position to go and spend up for that nice thing? Maybe it's an exotic car, maybe it's a McLaren, maybe it's to go buy a yacht or a private jet. And they're in the position to where they can't afford it. It's going to be a stretch. It's going to make them feel a little bit uncomfortable, but they really want it. Would you say, hey, go do it because it's going to force you to level up your game? It's going to force you to figure out how to make more money. And even more importantly, as a function of it, it's going to open a new door that's going to allow you to level up your network, which is going to in turn level up your entire life? Or would you say, hey, don't do it?
You know, I've done all of the above. It would be so individualistic. If you're asking me where I think, if you're saying I'm 20, I want a Huracan, I can't afford to pay it cash, I've got the down payment, I can afford the monthly. It's definitely more than, whatever percent of my income I should, associate to transportation. But trust me, and I'm betting on me, dude, I would say do it.
10 times out of 10
100%,
times.
and I'll tell you why.
I like that.
Like the whole idea of money, right? Like there is great. I was watching, I think it was Will Smith talk about it. He was saying, some people say you have to hit rock bottom to change your life. He said the opposite is called cliff top.
Okay, what does that mean?
Cliff top is getting to the place where you've got it all and realize nothing was going to ever make you happy. So the people that are more financially prudent and say that you have to like live within your means and all this stuff, they've got a scarcity mindset around money. The people that are carpe diem, like blow it all and then literally are 55, still borrowing money from their parents, they went too far the other angle. But I think it's more interesting to say, know thyself. And if you know that stretch, like I have a sales guy on my team, he wants a Porsche. I'm like, dude, go buy the Porsche. Why do I say that to him? Because I know he's the kind of guy that can afford it. Well, it'll develop him more. Out of every decision he could make today, he already goes to the gym. He's already got a beautiful relationship. He's got all the stuff. I know that Porsche is going to put him into now I got to perform. Because right now what he does in his numbers, he goes up and he wins and then he comes down. 2 months later, he goes up. And I know for a fact, for him, that's why it's very specific. For him, if he put himself in that position, he would find another gear. And so like, to me, I think money can either be a hindrance or it could be a supportive thing. And I'm more of a fan of people betting on themselves. And dude, I didn't buy a supercar for 15 years. No, it was about 12 years after I made my first million because I was worried what other people were going to think.
Yeah, I think in my personal experience, every time that I forced myself to go afford that nicer thing, even though it didn't quite feel comfortable at the time, every time I forced myself to do it, every aspect of my life has leveled up as a function of it. And I think it all comes down to shifting your mindset when you go and see other people with those nice things. If you shift your mindset and say, hey, that actually inspires me, how can I afford it? It forces you to think completely differently. And every time I've done that, my whole life has leveled up from a function of it. I wanted to ask you, I think right now with 2025, we got technology is evolving at a much quicker and a more rapid pace than ever before. We've been in a high interest rate environment for the last 36 months. I think it's easy for a lot of folks out there to forget, like, times have been challenging over the last 36 months. I think liquidity is an all-time low for most Americans out there. Credit card debt's an all-time high. And I think the big reason behind that is the way that most people re-up on liquidity, most Americans, regardless of income level, is by refinancing their primary home that they live in. And so even if you're a doctor and attorney making $400K, $500K a year, you still have an expensive mortgage. You still have expensive car payments. Your kids are probably in private school, and you still rely on those refinances. No one's been able to refi. And so with that, I think there's a lot of opportunity. We have AI, we have social media. There's a lot of different avenues right now to where opportunity is presenting itself. I want to ask you, where do you see the biggest opportunities in 2025?
I mean, I'm biased, but this is looking across all the different industries. So like I'm a technology guy. Learning how to code saved my life as a teenager. Period, full stop. Built and exited software companies, struggled with a lot of things over the years, but like just kept coming back to that. And for me, obviously, well, maybe not obvious to anybody that's new to my stuff, but like AI is where I'm making a massive bet. So Martell Ventures is an AI venture studio where we incubate our own companies. So
that's the AI incubator?
Yeah. Martell, like a lot of people know me as a software guy. I wrote a book called Software as a Science, and I run I own the company that runs the largest coaching group called SaaS Academy for software CEOs. But when I saw what AI was doing in the market, and I realized that it was going to transform the future. And this is my other belief is I don't know what will be the dominant future. Like a lot of people want to like claim, oh, it's going to do this, this, and this.
Yeah.
I think sometimes here's a controversial idea.
We're all speculating.
But how about we just admit that? Like, do you ever feel like sometimes people don't start companies because they feel like they have to have the answers, and all the real entrepreneurs are like, oh no, I know I'm wrong. I don't know what part is, but that's okay. I'll figure it out and solve it.
You'll figure it out as you go.
Yes. People are like, what is the future of AI? I can't tell you past 6 months. But where am I putting all my money? In it, like millions, like literally all in. Just focus, time, AI engineers, data scientists, like full on conversations, AI experts. That's all I do. The media stuff is literally my impact, my love of creating content. But then on the personal brand, that's also the highest leverage thing you could do.
The most valuable asset you could build for yourself.
Dude, it is the thing that you will take with you. So why a personal brand? One, the ability to communicate is the most powerful skill you could ever develop. The person who knows how to use stories and communication and words to get a group of people to move in a direction, to accomplish a goal, to the degree you can do that is called success. It'll push you to become better because it'll show you where most people don't want to create content because they're insecure. They don't feel worthy. They're worried of being judged. Like pulling out your phone and talking to your phone.
It's not easy.
Most people would rather be in the casket dead than on stage doing the eulogy. So right off the bat, it's the best forcing function for personal development I've ever seen. And then if you think of, you have a vision board, you have a dream of your life, everything on there, okay, gets easier on the backside of two things. Your reputation, do people like who you are, and reach, how many people know you are. Back in the day, it used to be who you know. Now it's who knows you. Dude, I mean, the reason, and it's just snowballed in the last 2 years for me because I decided to stop being amateur hour at content and going all in, is the invites to things that aren't public, that you can't buy a ticket to, right? That you get access to when people
Well, this is a prime example of what you're alluding to. A lot of people think the benefits of podcasting and social media are all these other things and making money, blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, no, the real hack of having a platform is it levels up your network. Think about this conversation that we're having right now, this relationship that you and I have. The only reason we have this relationship and the only reason we are hanging out and having a conversation right now is because of this podcast and because of the platform. And that's what a lot of people don't realize. It opens up so many doors and opportunities, and you never know what kind of further doors and opportunities those relationships are going to lead to.
I think for me, The personal brand, because that is the thing that is the most authentically you that AI can't replace. Yes, there's generative video and voice and all this stuff that makes it look like a simulation, but it's not you, and people know that. They feel you, and your ability to have scale, to influence conversation, share your ideas, to refine your craft. Like, dude, the truth is, if you suck on content, you will get 0 views. What a beautiful feedback system. Like,
Yeah.
I love that. I love that if I create a video that doesn't create value, that isn't entertaining, I get an immediate feedback system.
Yes.
Then I got to go do some work. And then having that audience and awareness and saying, hey, I'm working on these tools, these AI tools. If it works for you, try them out. If not, that's cool. So then I have distribution. When I realized that everything I wanted to accomplish in the world gets 10 times, 100 times easier on the backside of reach and reputation, that was when I started deploying millions of dollars towards media. And most people are still trying to figure this out. Dude, I was late to the game, man. Even you were late to the game, and you've been doing this for a long time. Gary Vee's been talking about this for 15 years, right? And like now people see some of these folks on YouTube blowing up. It's like, I was late, man. I'll be honest with you. Like I was doing it. I've been doing YouTube for a decade, but 2 years ago is when I decided to actually go all in.
Yeah. What was the biggest shift for you? Because it was November of last year, so let's call it 18 months ago. You were at 170K on Instagram.
Yeah, I didn't even
What
think
was
it
the
was
key
that high
from
then.
going to 170 to 1.2 and literally just blowing everything up?
I want to give the thing that everybody else can run with. So I'm checking in with my heart. The truth is, if you ask yourself, let's say an athlete, what is the difference between a weekend warrior and a professional? Well, a weekend warrior works out sometimes during the week, sometimes on the weekend. They definitely don't prioritize it over their birthday. They don't prioritize it over their holidays with their family. It's okay. A professional trains. It's like number one, everything else, right? Somebody's deciding going to the Olympics.
They put themselves in situations where the hard way is the only way.
There is
Every
no
day.
other option. Everybody else, please, to the side. I'm focused. Do they spend a little bit of money? Do they, the weekend warrior probably tries to find a good deal at a garage sale or the annual ski thing, whatever. Or a pro actually deploys their dollar to, literally, I'm an Ironman athlete, the tens of thousands of dollars people spend on carbon wheels to save literally 15 seconds a minute on their bike time or something. It's just ridiculous. Some people should just lose weight instead of spending money on carbon. I mean, that one's funny. I'm like, it's easier for you to drop 10 pounds than to spend the extra $25,000 on a 10-pound lighter bike for what it's worth.
But I mean, you got guys like LeBron James dropping, a couple million a year just into
They know
their health and their diet.
they're pros. They know.
Nutrition.
Yeah. And then you go like, do they have somebody that coaches them? Amateur definitely doesn't. A pro 100% would. You'd be so blown away to meet somebody going to the Olympics that doesn't have a coach. I'm not gonna, like I'd bet against you versus the guy that's going gold. And then the other one is like the measurement, right? So like, what's the biggest difference? It's measurement. I right before I walked in here, I checked the analytics of all, like we just had a YouTube video. Anybody does YouTube knows, is it a 1 to 10? I want a 1 to 10. Like we're in the studio app and we're refreshing and we're looking at the click-through rates. We're looking at the retention curves. Like anybody that's a pro does that. People that are amateur, post and ghost. So like, if you just think about the activity of the decision of going from amateur to pro, that's all I did, man. But guess what? I used to do that. I do that in business. I just never thought of applying it to media, even calling it media. Martell Media, not a marketing department. Martell Media is a different frame.
Now, when you say that you created a media company, what do you mean by that?
I literally I got a 5,000 square foot studio and built a media
5,000 square foot.
5,000 square foot dedicated to just media.
Wow.
Yeah. I hired a CEO, Todd. Sam's a creative director. He's my business partner. And we have a team of people. I treat it like I would if I was going to the Olympics, I'd want a training facility. I want to practice. I hire coaches for it. Like, I'm not going to disrespect the art form by saying that, like, again, everybody has different goals. If you want to kind of do it, that's fine. But don't tell me you want to be top in the world. Like, it's the people that come to us and say, oh, Dan, I want to be top in my category. And I look at, like, when you say, what did you change? Well, how about just consistency?
That's number one.
Oh my gosh. That's why I was asking myself, like, what could I say? Well, I'm going to assume they've probably heard that one before. But it's like,
But real quick on that note, because I think this is important for the listeners right now, is if you think about how low the bar really is in the game of content, and you think about people in the entrepreneurial space, business owners, real estate investors that are actually putting out content at a high level, I can count on two hands how many there are. 80% of podcasts die within the first 10 episodes.
dude, I think it's 7 episodes.
I've seen so many people start podcasts and within 10 episodes, they're done. I've seen so many people start to put out content. A lot of my competitors in the space, in the real estate space, started to put out social media content shorts. After 2 months, they're not posting anymore. They give up, they throw in the towel. And the bar has never been this low, ever. And so I think just simply by being consistent and posting every single day for an entire 12 months, you are going to be in the top 2%.
Dude, it's not hard to stand out. There's like, I've known this in entrepreneur world, in content world, that the top percent, the single digit percent is consistency. And then I would say the other one is iteration, not repetition. So the mistake a lot of people making content, right? They hear somebody, Mr. B, say, you got to post 100 videos. Gary Vee say, you got to post every day. And they go, I did it. I posted every day. Yeah, but you didn't iterate. You just did repetition. Those are two different things. Posting 100 videos of you saying the same thing 100 times, what did you learn?
Yes.
So like,
you got to get better.
The one idea I would say is, so discipline and then post. And every time you post, try to make the next video a little bit better, which means you should look at the analytics, ask yourself, did it get any views? See if anything ever got any views. See if other people are getting views on something tangential to what you normally talk about. Look at the scene, look at the audio, look at the video, look at your delivery method, look at the energy, look at the sound design, and then try something different in the next video and do that 100 times. Then you actually, that to me puts you in the single digit percentage of the people out there. And it's not complicated, but it's just a decision. Step one, you say, what is the biggest difference? Yes, all the mechanical side of the things of investing it. Because to me, it's very simple, right? When I told you I got the studio, you're like, you got a studio? I looked at two things, my calendar and my bank account. If you tell me something's important to you, I'm not going to listen to how passionate you sell me on it. I'm going to ask you to show me two things, your calendar and your bank account. And if you tell me being top in media is important to you and you want to be top in the world, and you sit there and spend $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, $10,000 a month, and you think you're balling at the highest level, you go watch some Mr. Beast videos. Dude, that guy put every penny back into it to be in his position. Nobody his age would do that, consider doing that. Gary Vee's the same thing. When you even look at like Team Gary outside of his office, that's just the team dedicated to Gary. That's not VaynerMedia. That team is probably 25 or 30 people. Do the numbers on payroll. Okay. That's multi-millions a year of people supporting just Gary Vee, the media personality. And I think that's where a lot of people, or even time. And that was a big thing for me. I wasn't spending enough time on it. Right. I was like,
how many hours do you spend a week now dedicated to content? I'm sure most of it just shooting, but like how many?
You're going to hate my answer.
Yeah. I'd love to hear it.
3 hours a week.
Wow. Because everything's prepped.
Because I wrote
tested,
a book and I teach what
rock.
I do. I know how to scale things. Right. And I have no problem investing in top talent.
And what are those 3 hours primarily focused on?
Usually 2 is my YouTube content and 1 is Reels.
Okay.
Everything else is just captured. That's why I always try. But again, Sam's always with me.
Mm-hmm.
But Sam literally has a whole team of videographers that travel and do things with me. So I'm always capturing. Some people won't even pay for somebody they'll be speaking at an event and they'll have a hard time spending $500 to have somebody capture the talk at the event they're speaking at. They're like, oh, should I really do that? I'm like, I don't trust other people's camera gear, dude. Like, Rich, I would love to say like, I love all the gear, but if somebody messes up and there's a corruption on the NAS or somebody, you know what I mean? We got our own stuff going.
I hear you. So Sam, your creative director, badass, by the way, was on our creator call and it was a very insightful call. One of the things he mentioned, which we actually implemented ourselves with everything that we're doing. But he said that you guys treat TikTok solely as a testing platform. You don't care about anything else but straight split testing on TikTok. Why is that?
So here's the thing about platforms is what we might have said 3, 4, 5, 6 months ago isn't necessarily where we're at today. That one is still accurate today.
But it could shift.
Since that, well, look at Trials came out on Instagram.
Yeah.
So like, where should we test now? Should it be Trials? Should it be TikTok? Is there like the algorithm? This is what I think is so cool. We've never had a time in social media where follower numbers is a literal vanity metric. Like, dude, it doesn't matter if you, and you see this. I have a friend that has 6 million subs on his YouTube channel, and he's having a hard time cracking 15,000 views. Okay. Because he got lazy.
Yeah. It's leveled the playing field though.
He got lazy. And what's crazy is I watch him. He knows what great content looks like. He knows the people that are beating him. And for whatever reason, he has not decided to invest in the pre-production work, the narrative arc, the testing, split testing. Dude, when we put out a YouTube video, we have thumbnail designers testing click-through rates using tools. And like, I mean, it's a real thing. So yeah, TikTok was that platform and still is a bit, but even that focus for testing reels, short form, because we break everything down from long form to short form, is also with Trials on Instagram.
So you guys are doing Trials as well.
Well, of course, Trials is literally, they built a tool to do that thing that we were using TikTok for that gets us free followers.
Yeah. In between Trials and TikTok, which one do you guys like better? Or
Well,
which one's a better accurate depiction?
It all depends who you ask. If you're asking Dan Martell, I mean, I like TikTok personally. I think TikTok's the coolest, smartest algorithm out there. In regards to testing content, you know, honestly, it's funny, I don't get involved that much.
Yeah. It's scary how accurate of a lead measure the TikTok content is in Instagram.
Oh, to other platforms,
it's so sensitive.
We actually track every short but with a spreadsheet per view per platform, because we also notice there's certain messages that will pop off on certain platforms that otherwise wouldn't. So when we're trying to create new content, we actually optimize for the platform. And that's a scale thing. If people are just trying to get going, don't bother trying to do all platforms. You'll literally ruin yourself under the weight of the complexity of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I want to switch gears here. I got so much to cover and only so much time here. So regarding growing your team and all that good stuff, how do I get my team to do more?
I love that question. So when you say do more, because they could do a lot of more that also is confusing and creates more pain, what is the problem you're trying to solve?
Let's say more output, more production in the right things that are actually going to grow the overall business and not the wrong things.
So what I've discovered is most teams can't execute because they don't see what you see. I'll give you a quick example, and you'd appreciate this because it's real estate. My wife decided to renovate our new home, and it was fairly new, but women, they like certain things. I don't get in the way. So she decides to resurface stuff in our kitchen. And the designer worked with her to visualize her vision for the kitchen. Now, what she did that I thought was brilliant is she printed off 3 diagrams from different angles of the kitchen and taped it to the wall. Why did she do that? Because she wanted every trade person that came into the kitchen to visualize and see what that kitchen's going to look like when it's done. Not the isolated person that came in and changed the marble on the countertop, or the person that changed all the hardware on the cabinets, but everybody could see what it needed to look like and could provide some level of feedback if they noticed something was off. Most teams can't execute because they don't see what you see. So see, entrepreneurs have the ability to see around corners. That's what makes us entrepreneurs. We're willing to go when there's no proof. Dude, being an entrepreneur is making decisions with imperfect data. Okay. The people that are not entrepreneurs are the ones that can't unless it's guaranteed. So right off the bat, you got to understand that for our teams to execute better, they need to have a visual vision of what it looks like. Because if you think of them making, let's say 25 small decisions per day, 2 big decisions per day, to the degree that you can get everybody on your team of 3 people, 5 people, 50 people, 500 people, aiming in the right direction, making decisions aligned with the vision, that is leadership. And most people do not have a visual tool that they point to, remind people, this is what we're building, this is where we're going, this is how it looks. They don't have it around the office. And I mean, that right off the bat is like table stakes. You can't scale at the level of scale that I'm talking about if you don't have a vivid vision of what great looks like. Does that make sense?
No, it does. It does.
That's one. Second thing is there needs to be the values required for people to make decisions. Because if you just say, hey, we're going to go make a lot of money, well, there's 100 ways you can make a lot of money. Some of those will land you in jail. Like you know how it is, man. At the end of the day, if somebody on your team makes a mistake tax-wise,
yes,
you're paying it.
Totally.
They could have been gone. 2 years ago, they left, but they made a decision. They didn't do, I mean, the latest one, especially in my world in software, is state tax, right? Everybody's charging a subscription. It's online. Why do I care about state tax? Oh no, there is real exposure to this. And if you don't, dude, I was at First Form 2 weeks ago, and Sal told this publicly to the whole room, so I'm not speaking out of school. But in 2019, their accounting and finance team made a mistake, and it created a $21 million tax bill.
That's huge.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Same story happened in Nike. I don't know if you knew this, but Nike got a big import tax. I think it was $30 million, something crazy. It was in tens of millions of dollars. And for me, if you don't create a set of values that people use to make decisions, then they can get themselves in trouble as well, right? Because integrity would have to be there. Thoroughness might want to be there. And then the other one is making sure that you have a process for hiring the right talent. You know, we were just talking about this before we started, that most business problems are people problems. And if you think of business as two funnels, that's the way I literally visualize it in my teams. There's two engines. There's the customer funnel, awareness, consideration, purchase. Then there's the talent funnel, awareness, consideration, hire. And it actually works. It's a bow tie funnel, because on the backside of that is onboarding for an employee, activation for a customer. So it actually follows through the same process. Most people don't have a repeatable, scalable talent engine. If I don't have a way of replacing underperformers on my team, then I will inherently keep people around that I shouldn't. And that is the bottleneck, because you possibly can't have enough hours in a week to solve every problem in business. You need to learn to work through your team.
Hey guys, real quick, I just wanted to personally thank you for listening to this podcast. It means the world to me. The only way this show grows is by word of mouth. If there's anyone in your circle that could benefit from this podcast, it would mean the world to me if you could share it with them via text or maybe on your Instagram story. And I'll be sure to keep an eye out on my Instagram for shares so I can reshare you on my Instagram story. Again, thank you so much for listening, and it means the world to me. Now back to the show. I feel like I'm constantly, cutting the weakest link and then replacing it with a talent. And every time I do that, I reset the median bar of the entire team, and then everything levels up as a function of it. But speaking of that, how do you know when it's the right time to part ways with a team member?
You know, the way I coach my executives to do it is to communicate clearly. So like if somebody messes up, the first question I ask is, was there a process for them to do the work you asked them to do that they messed up? Is there a checklist? Most of the time there isn't, because if you're growing really quick, if you grow at least 50% growth per year, every 6 months, you're breaking every system in your business. Most people don't know that. So then they get mad at a team member for making a mistake, but it's like, you guys grew 100%, 200% last year, and nobody decided to revisit the financial processes of the business. When you start a business, a spreadsheet can work. Then you might need to go to like Xero for like accounting. Eventually, you might need to upgrade to something like NetSuite. And then if you're a real big company, then you go to an SAP. So even the tooling for different size of businesses are different. Team members work the same way. So process is number one. Then I asked, did you train them on that process? Well, they reviewed it when they onboarded the company. Dude, checklists are one thing. Training is completely different. So my whole philosophy is I train, I don't tell. So if you report to me, you make a mistake, was there a process? Yes. Did I train you on it? Not really. Okay. Next week, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to train everybody. So every Friday I do leadership training across my whole org, everybody. That's my way of like leveling everybody up. Then if somebody makes the same mistake, then I have a conversation about it. If they make the mistake again, then they're in the yellow zone. Then eventually they're red. And for me, I call it a transition. I don't fire people. By the time, I remember we hired a revenue leader once. He was on the team 5 weeks. On the 5th week, when we let him go, he almost said something that sounded like thank you, because he knew he wasn't performing to the standard. And that is not because we were rude about it. Before he even joined. I mean, one of my philosophies for director levels and above is come into the company, talk to everybody, really understand what you're getting into. Dashboards, metrics, performance. If you take the role, my last interview, when I start that final interview, and I do final interviews with everybody, is my job to convince you not to take the job.
What do you mean by that?
My job is to literally tell you what I expect and scare you away. But if in what I share with you on this conversation gets you excited to start, you're my guy. If you're not, please don't waste your time or anybody else in my team's time. Because to me, especially director level and above, these are leaders. These are people that are going to shape departments. These are people that you're going to count on to produce results. And if they are only taking the job because they hate their current boss, or they think they're going to gain something from being on your team, or anything other than, I want to go a place where I feel like I can express myself in a way that otherwise, like steel sharpens steel, like I want to be in that high performance team. Anything other than that mindset is not going to be a winning recipe. And I remember one time I was about to interview this events person or something, and the person hiring, like they needed that hire, and they came to me before and they said, please don't scare them away. And I said, can't do it. I'm not doing it. I'm not going to. That's the wrong. You shouldn't ask me to do that, because that meant you just hired the easiest person for you, not the right person for the team. And to your point, every new hire should raise the average. And everybody on the team should be grateful they made it on the team at the time they made it on the team, because today's average is higher and they might not make the cut today.
That's so good.
That's the philosophy.
The more I learn about this game of business, I think when I first started growing the team, I didn't know what talent looked like. And so I was just, hiring whoever. And by accident, I actually hired someone really good. And I was like, oh, that's what really good talent looks like. And then I started hiring more talent. And as I grow it, I'm like, man, I only want to work with A players. And it's not just on the direct team, like people that are on my payroll, but it's also all these third parties that we work with, right? We have a ton of vendors that we work with. And so, even our marketing consultant, we had a consultant who was just mediocre at best. And I thought that was just what it was. And I recently made a pivot a month ago and actually by accident saw what really good talent was. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so it's like all these avenues. And the more I grow in business, the more I realize I only want to work with A players, because that is really the hack. That is truly the hack between getting them from point A to point B, is just surrounding yourself with straight gamers, straight A players.
I will say this, because I had one of my clients, this woman, talk to me about talent, because talent is the biggest bottleneck for most teams. And I said, the challenge is when you make a bad hire, you take it out on your kids. And she's like, what do you mean? I said, have you ever been on vacation and you see that guy pacing next to the pool on his phone? That guy's dealing with a problem created by a person he hired. And when you bring people into your life that are not talented, capable, and you're ambitious, you are literally playing with fire, because that person will create a situation where on your vacation, you're not going to be there with the kids in the pool playing with them because of a person. And that has always been the case. No person on vacation is doing business unless a person on their team made a mistake, created a situation, culturally, something. Because
so good.
Well, because
it's so accurate.
I mean, that's just, I've lived it myself, dude. I've been that guy pacing the patio, watching my family down at the pool while I'm up in the hotel room, dealing with a person issue that I knew when I hired them, there was something off. Red flags don't go down.
That's so good. Speaking of that, and speaking of hiring, so I'm curious what your favorite path is. We've played around with different methods. So, posting on Indeed, ZipRecruiter, even throwing some ad money at that, posting on socials. And then we have a funnel of people that always reach out via email or on social media that want to work on our team. And then most recently, we started using a recruiter. And so I'm curious for you, what is your preferred method to find true A players in terms of hiring?
Well, the truth is A players are hardly looking. They're usually incredibly employable, talented. And my role is director level and above. I go outbound.
Okay.
It's very rare that for a leadership director level and above, I can, individual contributors for sure. People are unhappy working somewhere. But I've been using recruiters forever. So I have, we have recruiters that report to I have a whole team just called people. Wayne runs it, the head of people. and he's responsible for our outbound campaigns, and we'll work with recruiters to source people. But there's like the roles you're always hiring for, sales positions, support admin, that kind of stuff. But real talent, like, has to be. I just, dude, it'd be like, you can't scale. If you want to get past 8 figures, like 10 million plus, and you don't use an outbound recruiter, you're just doing business on hard mode. You're making it hard on yourself, because the person, it's like, I have a lot of software CEOs that I coach, or even when I hire CEOs for my own companies, I want to hire the COO at the number one competitor in the space. So it's a double whammy.
Yeah.
Why? See what I'm saying?
I do. Yeah.
There, you get it. So like, strategically, that just makes sense.
Because they're going to give you nuggets and insights on how your competitor runs their business. And there might be a couple of those that you implement into your own.
Not only
also,
that,
they're going to give you intel of how they're running, which will give you a competitive lift.
Yes. And the third part is, I'm taking a top person away from them.
That's so good.
Hey man, it's business. So it's like,
it's like the Cleveland Cavalier or Luka Doncic trade with Dallas Mavericks. The Lakers pick them up, and then now Dallas takes a step back.
That's the whole point is look, I'm always looking for the right person. And obviously I don't want somebody who's transactional and is like, oh yeah, you're gonna pay me more, I'm gonna join. So it's not that. But hiring somebody that, so director level and above, I call it, they come with playbooks. If you expect me to have the answers to how we scale, we're all in trouble. But I tell this to my team every Friday when I do leadership training. I'm like, my request of everybody in this room, we broadcast it to all my companies, is you have to go outside these walls to learn, to then bring back the ideas to this group. Most CEOs make the mistake of, they go to the masterminds, hire a coach, etc. My philosophy is, I have my leaders go and learn, and then, hey, read books. Hey, tell me what you learned, because that scales. At the end of the day, business is a byproduct of people development. And that's like, when you say Sam, who's incredibly talented, it's also a skill, because there's two ends of that. Hire the person with the playbooks, and also look for the rising stars. Become a talent developer, right? Become a, like a world-class coach. And I think that's a winning recipe, where you have people that have the maturity of understanding complexity and, industry norms and trends and relationships. So they're more senior. And then you have these high potential entry level people that are younger, but have the ability to execute, and the focus and the tenacity and the drive that you can mold into, and having both of those are really important.
That's really good. Okay, next up, how do you know when it's time to fire yourself from your business?
I think the moment you fall out of love with the problem, then it's time to go. I think great businesses are built on the backside of loving the problem you're solving, irrelevant of the solution you're building. The best example that I can think of that is like Mark Zuckerberg. To this day, and I just watched his Theo Von interview, which was hilarious and so fun.
I got to check that out.
Theo Von is a gift to humanity. I'm a big comedy fan, and his interviews are just ridiculous and also really insightful. Like, he gets people, because he's so like playful, they say stuff that they otherwise would never answer questions to. But you see Mark, and you can just tell that he's still very passionate and in love with the problem of connecting people. Like, it's still something that he feels is very unsolved, and that the future continuously, like the world technology wise, is moving, and he can see. And I don't know, I think that's all the best brands are created on the backside of people falling in love with the problem they're trying to solve for the customer. And they're not romantic about the solution. The day you don't, and you see this all the time. A lot of people come to me and they're like passionate about kids and content, and they want to do like a baby store retail thing. It's like, because you have kids. Okay. In 10 years, when your 4 and 5-year-old are now 15 and 16, are you still going to be passionate about babies? Ask yourself that question, because you do not want to put your life savings into a retail store selling baby seats if you start, being interested in yoga or something. I don't know. But I just think that's usually the decision for people. If they fall out of love, it's time to move on.
Yeah. What's one belief that keeps most people broke?
I think broke people spend their money. So let's think belief. Actually, if it comes to belief, the belief that keeps people broke, the first is that other people are responsible for their situation. That's the one belief. Like, If you had to distill it into anything,
The victim mentality.
oh my gosh, it's every aspect of the event. Dude, they don't even see it.
Mm-hmm.
They don't see that they can't even control their emotions because some person cut them off in traffic and it sent them into a 5-hour tailspin of every person they interact with after that moment. They tell, I was driving, somebody cut me off. Yeah. How's your day? Oh, I was driving, somebody cut me off. Like they think it's so funny, Rich, that they don't even realize how much talking about a bad situation they do. And they just festers. It's almost like the more mature you are emotionally, the shorter that time frame of festering around emotions is. And the more immature you are, the long. And if you're super immature, we're talking weeks. How many people have parents that don't even talk to their kids anymore because of some dumb thing that was done years ago? And that they're still holding on to that. Months they haven't talked to a family member because of some comment they made at a barbecue. And then they want to be successful in life. So I think most people that are broke don't take accountability for their situation.
And I'm speculating here, but I know for myself, and I'm sure this is probably the case for most high-level entrepreneurs, is I don't have any of those folks in my circle. So I don't hear any of that kind of
you
talk.
don't get exposed
I
to
used
it.
to. I used
Yeah.
to before I knew better. But as you grow, you start to really refine your circle. And so I don't allow anyone with that kind of sentiment or energy in my circle. So I'm not used to it. But 99% of your dramas disappear when you surround yourself with smarter, more intelligent people. And that's just how the game works.
They're emotionally intelligent. And that's why I think that your financial success in life is a byproduct of your emotional intelligence and reaction to the world. Low level, be accountable for your situation. Next level up, realize that you're compensated for the value you create in the world. Period, full stop. I don't care if your job is harder. What problem are you solving with that? Moving a pile of rocks from one spot to another physically is probably incredibly demanding. It's not valuable. So people are not going to pay you a lot to do that. Whereas if you're a tax specialist and you can save a billionaire $100 million in taxes, he might give you a couple million of that. Bigger problem, bigger value. And that's the game we play in. That's the world we live in. That's our society. It's capitalism. If you don't like it, find a different. Like some people don't realize, like if you don't like the way the game is played, then move to a different country that you feel aligns more with your values. But I think you'll probably wake up and realize how incredible it is that truthfully, anybody that's willing to do the work, there's a great, I think it's Da Vinci has a quote that said, God will sell you anything. The price is labor. Anything you want. That's the price. You got to pay it with labor.
And for anyone listening that, maybe feel stuck right now, you don't feel like you're growing, you're looking for that next thing. Don't forget, even though there's a lot of bad news out there in the marketplace and the talks of tariffs and all the interest rates and all the stuff that's going on right now in the economy, don't forget, this is probably the best time ever in history of Earth to be alive with technology and social media. You can learn anything watching YouTube.
You know what's funny,
listening
Rich?
to a podcast.
I was talking to my buddy last week. I think that every generation has always said that.
It's probably true.
Isn't that interesting? Like every generation
gets better though.
But I think maybe the right people in that generation has always said that. You know what I mean?
That's really good.
Yeah, like I think that if you grab 100 random people off the street, these are the numbers. 15% are entrepreneurial. Okay. Now within that 15,
that's higher than I would have thought.
Yeah, but let me tell you what that means. Self-employed, Uber driver, the cleaning person, right? The person that mows a couple lawns, like they're in that bucket of the 15%. Okay. The cafe owner, they might not even make enough money to really live. Let's be honest, but they're in that bucket of like, hey, I want to create my own future. Within that 15%, there's really only 2% of the 15% that make money, like real money. And if you think about like, what's the difference maker? One thing, those people decided to continue to grow, continue to learn, continue to realize that like, no matter what's happening in the economy, the wind is blowing. My job is to learn to set the sail. Today, every day, there's $1 trillion worth of economy that's happened. I don't give a crap what the interest rate is. I don't care. I literally do not have a need of anything to happen in a certain way. Winners win. The people that win, dude, you grab Elon Musk, okay? How you like him or not, you grab him, you drop him, take everything away from him, drop him in the middle of the Amazon jungle. Come back in 5 years. What do you think you'll find? Do you think you'll just find a guy living in a hut, or will you find a guy that took over the whole freaking jungle, tribe, built a whole society? Like, that's what people don't realize is the game to play is to learn how to play regardless of what's going on. Like, no matter if the interest rate is high or low, there's surplus, not enough, tariffs, no tariffs, people, no people.
I mean, you can win in all conditions, and I think the best way to predict your future is to create your own reality. But one more thing I'll say, Dan, and I didn't learn this until I went through it. And the one takeaway that I have is the biggest takeaway is that nobody in this world knows exactly what they're doing. Nobody knows what they're doing. Some people do it anyways. Some people do it anyways. And so if you think about, Elon Musk, you mentioned when he got started in the game, no idea what he's doing, but guess what? He did it anyways. He figured it out. Jeff Bezos, when he started Amazon, no idea what he was doing at the time. He did it anyways. He figured it out. I'm sure when you got in the game,
Dude, I literally said
you
at the
didn't know what
beginning,
you're doing. You took action though, and you figured it out.
entrepreneurs literally make decisions without perfect data.
Yes.
That is the whole point. I assume this is what's different from people that sit on the sidelines and people in the game. I start a business knowing I'm wrong. Most people won't even start unless they're guaranteed it's going to work.
Yes.
Okay, stay there and wait for perfect. Guess what never shows up? That.
Yes.
The people that literally say, I'm just going to get in the river, start moving downstream, and then figure out how to navigate this thing, they're the ones that end up in this new land of opportunity. But most people sit around waiting for the river to dry up so they can make a crossing.
100%.
That's not how it works.
6 years ago, I was working full-time as an air traffic controller. I knew nothing about business, nothing about real estate. But guess what? I did it anyways. I figured out how to buy real estate. When I started this podcast, knew nothing about podcasting. I did it anyways, and guess what? I figured it out. And I think once you realize that no one knows what they're doing, and the only thing that separates you and the person that's growing out there is that they did it anyways, and they figured it out, and guess what? You will figure it out too. And once you realize that, I think everything changes.
Yeah,
None of us know what we're doing. None of us know what we're
exactly
doing.
with today with the AI stuff, man. Like somebody, so I mentor a lot of kids through Instagram. I
love that.
I spend way too much time chatting on Instagram, but I love it. And like this kid, Vincent, this morning, he messaged me, he goes, hey man, I'm really diving into this AI stuff. Like, how do I learn how to do AI better? And I was like, ask AI. Like, it's kind of wild, man.
Yeah.
But there's the world's information on learning how to do everything is already there. But I always like to ask people, what are you pretending not to know? What are you pretending not to know?
That's so good. What's one skill you learned from hanging out with billionaires?
I think you can make millions with good marketing, but I think you make billions with brand. And that's the thing that if I had to go back and tell the 30-year-old version of Dan, I had the privilege of spending a week with Richard Branson in Switzerland at his home. And I asked him that advice. I said, what's the one skill an entrepreneur should learn to be successful? And he just said brand. And dude, I literally, arrogant little dumb Dan, thought he's so disconnected. I was so dumb, dude. I was like, oh, he's disconnected. Because I was living in Silicon Valley and I'm watching these tech companies sell for like $100 million in 3 years. And they didn't have a brand, right? I didn't understand it. I didn't get it. That to me, why are they a billionaire? Is because they've created a business that has a brand that stands for something. Doesn't matter if it's technology, restaurants, retail, fashion. That's why they're billionaires. And I obviously have gone hard in the paint on this, but that is the difference is most people mess around with marketing and they'll make millions. But if you want to make billions, you have to build a brand.
That's so good. And, we're talking about the economy and all these different seasons and conditions. It's like, okay, well, what's the way around unperfect conditions is the brand.
Dude,
you set your own conditions at that point.
That's why I think the personal brand is such a powerful thing to invest in. The dividends are immediate, which is great. And then they're also forever, meaning you take you with you for the rest of your life. And if you decide to go from real estate, financial services to whatever, who you are and how you operate will precede you in every interaction. And if you build that body of work that people can tap into to get to know you before they ever meet you, that's incredibly valuable.
Yeah, it's so good. Build trust at scale. What was your rock bottom moment?
I've had several. Like when I was younger, I had as a teenager, I ended up in a lot of trouble and ended up in juvenile detention twice and all that fun stuff. I've shared quite a bit. People can Google that. I think the one that I Because I also don't believe in success theory. I don't want to sit here and tell you, oh, Dan's rich and he flies around in a jet and all that stuff and pretend like I don't deal with challenges. Like 3 years ago, I woke up and I had the worst 6 months of my entrepreneurial career in a decade. And essentially, long story short, I had hired somebody to run recruiting that had a completely different agenda than I did around how to build the company. And they went out of their way to hire a bunch of people to fit their view of how the team should be built. This woman. And I woke up one day and I realized I didn't enjoy interacting with my own team. Like I actually got annoyed going to meetings. So what did I do? I stopped showing up for certain meetings. Well, that's not a great way to run a company. Guess what her name was?
What was it?
Karen.
Oh, no way.
You can't even make this up.
What are the chances?
Yeah. And my wife met her and she's like, oh my God, she's a Karen. I'm like, yeah, she was wild. And you know what, man? I knew 3 months in after hiring, she'd been there at that point, maybe 3 or 4 years. I knew 3 months in, her and I didn't see things the same way, but I told myself some crappy story about, you know what, maybe that's the next level. Next level is, hey, you have to have diverse opinions and contradicting people in your business. Dude, I was so full of crap. I spent 6 months going, essentially fighting a monster inside my organizations that I couldn't put my arm around. Like when tariffs get introduced and there's an issue, you can say, oh, I have tariffs, I got to deal with that, and I do this, and I move stuff here. And when you're trying to fight a monster and you don't know what the monster looks like, and you're like swinging at vapor, it is a completely different beast. It was wild. I remember talking to my COO at the time, and I told her, I said, hey, if you're done, like if this isn't working for you, because there was a few key people that said they were going to stay and didn't stay, and then that's always like shoe drops. And I said, just resign now. I won't be upset, but then I'll at least know who's left. I'm not like, I'm going to keep building. I just need to know what this world's going to look like. And she's like, no, I'm in it. I'm in it for the mission. I'm in it, blah, blah, blah. I said, okay, cool. 3 weeks later, she resigned.
She resigned.
Dude.
What was her reason for resigning?
It's just too much drama. This is what happens if you,
Create
most people
chaos.
don't, the people I wanted to leave, this is the thing that really like kicked over the whole bucket was me getting to a place where I did a Slack post to the whole company, informing everybody, this is the problem we're solving. This is how we're going to solve it. This is why we do what we do. If any of this doesn't resonate with you, because you came here to solve other world problems that we're not going to work on, I will give you $15,000 to resign today and we'll remain friends. The problem is that created a whole shitstorm of people and cultural issues. Essentially, the cracks just got aware, and some leaders that were A players that loved me didn't want to deal with the crap. And that's what happened with my COO. She's just like, I'm good, you know? And I don't blame her. I created it. I hired the person. I allowed them to hire other people. I didn't react properly. I should never did that Slack post. I mean, I learned quite a few lessons in that 6-month period. But guess what? That was the foundation, the precursor to then everything else. The book, the media, ventures, AI. So like my ability now to hire and lead talent and honor the cultural values.
Leveled up.
Oh, like
As a
100x.
Yeah.
100x. Literally, I would have never got to this next level without having to defeat that devil. And I think that's the interesting thing that when I coach people privately, I'm working with them on understanding where they're shying away from pain, because I know their next level in the eye of the storm.
That's so good.
Like, but did you know buffaloes, when they sense a storm coming, they run towards the storm?
Why is that? I didn't know
why?
that.
It's a great question. The reason they run towards the storm is because they know as they're running and the storm's coming, they spend less time in the storm. Most people feel a storm, they run away. You spend more time in the bad weather. If you, and again, it's what are you pretending not to know?
You get through it quicker if you attack it.
If you just say, that's my next level, that's the devil, I'm going to go full force. I'll have to, take it on the chin. It's going to hurt. But on the backside of that, I'll develop the skill that I need for the next. See, most people don't realize that the pain they're going through today is to get them ready for the thing they've been asking for.
That's
Isn't
so
that cool?
Good. That's so good.
If you actually knew that today challenge was setting you up to be able to receive the thing you've been asking for, you would be excited about the challenge of today. But most people don't see it that way.
That's so good. I've heard you say before that you never look at your kids' grades in school. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, there's a few things. I love my kids to death, okay? I got 2 boys, 11 months apart, Irish twins. I put them to bed every night. We travel the world together. I love them. I don't care about their opinion on our life. So a lot of people see us travel the world and they go, "What do your kids think?" I don't make decisions based on how I think my kids are going to feel about our life. They get to live that life after. Does that make sense, Rich? Because a lot of people, I think, sacrifice their current, where they live, how close they live to family members. Do they travel the world? Oh, my kid doesn't like it. Okay, I don't know. Like, my life, I'm going to optimize for my wife and I, and our kids are there and we love them, but we don't make those decisions. Same thing with education. I didn't create, did you, I don't know, like, did you get involved in creating the school tests?
No.
Like, you know what I mean? Nobody asked me my opinion on what's important.
A lot of that stuff was developed in the industrial age.
Dude, it
before
makes
we had technology.
zero sense. I wasn't informed on what you're learning at school. I believe every kid is homeschooled. Every kid is homeschooled. It's whether the parents realize it or not.
I will do that when I have kids.
Yeah, but I'm talking about every kid's homeschooled, even if they go to public school.
What do you mean by that?
Mean that you're responsible as a parent to educate your kids on the way the world is. The school is not responsible to do that. There's only 2 things I ask my schools to figure out. Teach them to read, teach them basic math. That's it. All the other stuff, I got it. When I remember my kids were like 7, 8, 2, 3 years ago when AI really started to pop, and I asked them, are they talking about AI at school? They're like, no. Even recently, I said, because we've been using AI since it came out October 2022. And I said, are they teaching it in school yet? And they said, no, you get in trouble if you use it. Wild. So like, no, I do not care what my kids' grades are in school. I didn't create the test. I don't know if I align with it. And I don't care because I've been very intentional about what they learn. And I homeschool them, even though they go to a private school or they have teachers. I'm a parent. My problem is most parents spend more time figuring out what vacation they're going on than what their kids are going to learn in school. Like literally what car they're going to buy next. The research they put into that times 10 more than, hey, what school should our kids go or what things should they learn? That's wild.
What's more important to you? Your kids being happy or your wife being happy?
My wife, 100 times over.
Why is that?
Because growing up, my parents didn't do well and they ended up getting separated when I was 12, 13. And it occurred to me that the only thing I wanted at that point in my life was for my parents to be happy. So why would I optimize for my kids to be happy when I know if I have a choice, all things being equal, that I have to pour into the relationship I have with Renee and our time together and us doing the work and us showing up for each other. And I don't even believe it's 50-50. I believe you do 100% on you. I'll do 100% on me. So I'm 100% better for you.
Yeah.
Right.
How long have you been married now?
We've been married technically 10 years. We've been together 15. Our kids are older than that. We just had babies a little backwards.
Yeah. What's the one key to being in a successful relationship for 15 years?
Always date your wife. Dude, I date my wife every day. I was joking with Sam about it yesterday. Because I said, like, most people don't date their wife. They take them for granted. Women want to be seen, heard, and appreciated. That's it. That's it. They want to feel safe, obviously. Safe is a big thing for women. But I know that if I continuously take care of my body, because again, I'm not impressed with the single dude that's got an 8-pack. Dude, F off. You have a massive motivation to be in shape. I'm impressed with the 42-year-old dude that's got kids, a wife, a business, and is shredded. That guy, full respect, because anybody that understands, nobody would hold it against them for them to put on an extra 10, 15, 20 pounds because they got all the stress of the world. And then where are they supposed to find the time? So like for me, dating your wife is the same thing. I don't want to take her for granted. I want her to feel like I'm always invested in us.
Yeah. I was actually shocked when I realized how few of American men actually have a 6-pack.
Oh, dude, it was like...
Or maybe in the world.
Yeah, I think this is why Project Visible Abs was so fun, because that's what happened. I think somebody said, I saw it on Instagram, some fitness influencer said, let's call it 320 million people in the US that are that live here, 22 million millionaires. 20 million millionaires, but only 3 million people with visible abs. So if you have visible abs and you're a millionaire, you're like a unicorn.
Absolute unicorn.
And I was like, oh, well, I'm already rich. Might as well just get a 6-pack, call it a day. A lot harder than I thought, it turns out. But that was, I just think it's interesting when you do things that very, like the small percentage of the population does, because that kind of like calcifies the mind, right? I saw a kid at the gym yesterday. He was 11 because I stopped and I said to him, I said, hey, how many other kids your age do you see at the gym right now? There's a couple hundred people there. And he goes, none. I said, you're in the right place.
Oh, you're in the right room.
You're in the right room, bro. You keep that mentality up for the rest of your life. The last mile is never crowded. Why? Because most people are not willing to do the work. You want to show up at the top of the mountain, look around, and nobody's at that mountain, right? Here, Cal Mountain, right? 5 a.m., very few people. 10 a.m. on a Saturday morning, you're going to line up to get up that mountain.
That's so good.
Right?
So good. All right, last question for you. And I think this is probably the number one question that I get, and I hear a lot of people wondering, just with all the news in the marketplace. But what should one focus on to get rich in 2025?
Dude, I don't mean to be, I have nothing to sell, but I'm just going to keep saying it's AI, AI, AI. If you don't realize there's this whole wave of transformation, I'm talking like multiple levels, just AI adoption, small business, like people are like, everybody must be using AI. Nobody's using it, bro. Even my own team. I walk around, I said, show me your Chat GPT or Claude or whatever you're using. Show me the history. And I'll see people go 4 or 5 days without using it. You can't be a productive member of a team if you don't use it every day, half a dozen times a day. Period. You're not that smart. Don't be so freaking dumb. Like it has to be used. So getting into that, to surf that wave right now in 2025, right now, everybody, I don't care what industry you're in, is a winning recipe to future-proof yourself and monetize. And like, and some people get stuck. If people want this, I created a whole SOP for prompts. My thing is follow me on Instagram and message me, Rich AI, and I will send them my format structure. It's very unique. It's like 4-step format that I use. And all of the prompts I've created for Buy Back Your Time, my book, and also how to start a business, including the offer stuff and all that. If people want to understand what mastery looks like from a prompt engineering point of view, just find me on Instagram, send me that message, and I'll send them the Google Doc direct. But I just can't see a world where I don't care what you do. And if you don't know what it is, ask AI. Like literally, I'm a house cleaner. I want to get into AI. What should I do? Write me a plan. It'll create it for you. It's so wild.
Absolute game changer. A couple quick ways that we're implementing AI, or we're using AI is on the hotel side with the revenue management. We have a software that uses anywhere between 100 to 200 AI price adjustments every 24 hours on each hotel based on demand, time of day, what the competition's doing, similar to how the airlines are doing it. Number two is we have a couple AI employees that are working on the hotel side as concierge. One of them, her name is Brooklyn, and Brooklyn helps guests with check-ins, nice restaurants to go to, places to go eat, places to go hike. But in addition to that, upselling additional nights, more expensive packages, additional room reservations, all the above. And so I think the takeaway is, and you just said it, if you're not using AI today, you're leaving a lot of money on the table. And it's going to be hard to compete with other business owners that are using AI, social media, all that good stuff. Dan, this has been an absolute pleasure. Dropping so much heat, man. Always great connecting. Where can the folks get in touch with you if they want to learn more?
Yeah, again, I love Instagram. Dan Martell, 2 L's Martell on Instagram is my favorite because the messaging platform is the best and I like to chat with people. And then my YouTube. Follow me on YouTube. I put out videos twice a week and just try to pour into people around the entrepreneurial journey and the mindset and the beliefs. And then if there's ever a chance where I'm speaking at an event, come find me and give me a high five. I'm a big fan.
Did you move to Austin?
No, I said I left my home. Everybody asked me that because I posted
I saw your
my
Instagram
schedule.
Story this morning. You're like, hey, I'm leaving my home.
I almost deleted it because
I'm like, what's
we
going
have
on
a house there and we're there for a while.
Okay.
But I did not move to Austin.
Okay. You're keeping us guessing, man.
I know.
Dan, I appreciate it, man. Big fan of everything you're doing. Inspired by you, and I know you inspire a lot of people around the world, so keep it up. And maybe a year and a half from now, we'll get you back on. And I can't even imagine where you're going to be by then. Appreciate you. He's Dan Martell. I'm Rich Numbers listeners. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.